Today, as we look into God's Word, I just am very blessed to recognize that we gather on a day, as Bill said 2,000 years ago, some folks gathered in Jerusalem to welcome Jesus in. Now, okay, if you're able, again, I'm sorry I don't mean to have you doing the ups and downs, but if you're able, I'm going to read the passage. Would you stand in honor of God's Word? It says in John chapter 12, beginning at verse 12, it says, "The next day, the large crowd that had come to the feast heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem. So they took the branches of palm trees and went out to meet him, crying, 'Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, even the King of Israel.' And Jesus found a young donkey and sat on it, just as it was written, 'Fear not, daughters of Zion. Behold, your king is coming, sitting on a donkey's colt.' His disciples did not understand these things at first, but when Jesus was glorified, then they remembered that these things had been written about him and had been done to him. The crowd that had been with him went when he called Lazarus out of the tomb and raised him from the dead, continued to bear witness. The reason why the crowd went to meet him was that they had heard he had done these signs." This is the word of the Lord. Blessings on you. You may be seated. I have a question for you. Why is everybody in Jerusalem? Oh, good job. The Passover. There were 3 festivals in the Jewish calendar that they would all gather together in Jerusalem. All of those who could travel from far distances. One was the Passover. Or one of the other 2. I'm sorry, what did you say? Somebody, he said tabernacles. I'm going to go with another one. What did somebody else say over here? Pentecost. It was the feast of a waving of the barley harvest. Okay? And then there was, and here I need help. It's either Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah. Which one is the Day of Atonement? Yom Kippur is? Good. Okay. So it was those 3 feasts that people would gather from all over the world, where Jews would gather to celebrate this time. And so here they were coming to Jerusalem. And so when they heard Jesus was coming, it was kind of the Palm Sunday thing going on. Now, had that ever happened before? Yeah. There was a time back in the Old Testament, I'm sure you're aware of it, when a guy named David would be victorious, and he would come back into town, and all of the people would be singing a special song. Saul has killed his thousands, and David his... Oh, you guys are good. I love it. Yes, that celebration of the victory for David. And of the house of David came this Jesus on this Sunday. Now, I got to get my clicker out. Can you guys see the screen okay? Yes. I know it's a little dim. I guess you guys are really working on getting some new technology here, right? Right, they're getting on. Okay, good. Well, I wanted to kind of introduce our time together was somewhat what Bill had shared with us, that it talks about in Zechariah 9:9, "Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion." Oh, here we go. "Shout loud, O daughters of Jerusalem. Behold, your king is coming to you. Righteous and having salvation is he. Humble and mounted on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey." Now, they sang about David when there had been some sort of a battle victory. You know, the whole idea that he had led the troops and they had done some great things. Now, you're going to be very disappointed in me today. Okay? I'm so sorry. It's not going to be good. I'm going to disappoint you in ways. So today I want you to recognize that, Israel, when they looked at David, or in any way as Israel looked, they needed hope for deliverance. When did that all begin? I appreciate Bill over here doing all the cues for you guys. Okay, so how early did it begin when they looked for a deliverer? Well, it started maybe when they entered the promised land, when the Canaanites and all the people who occupied the promised land, there was the fear that what was going to happen, these giants that were there. And can we really be victorious in this promised land? And the first generation said what? No, we can't be victorious because there's giants there. They're greater than we. Even though our God said, go and conquer, they said, we can't do that. We're not strong enough. And so they didn't trust God. And so that generation wandered in the wilderness until a new generation arose. One generation who would be ready for the victories that were in God's hands, that would be given to them through God's strength. And it was that Jericho, how did that fall? They shouted and blew their trumpets and the walls came down? How in the world is that any kind of a warfare? How can that be a victory, that they shouted and blew their trumpets and the walls fell down? Yeah, the walls came down. And through those days, the Canaanite times, they always looked for that deliverer. There was also the period of the judges. You're familiar with them. You know, Othniel, Ehud, and Shamgar, some of your favorite characters in the Bible. Okay. Othniel, do you remember him? Do you remember who his wife was? Oh gosh, come on. Othniel married the daughter of Caleb because he had done the work that Caleb had said, whoever does this, my daughter. And so Othniel, Ehud. How many people are left-handed here? Okay, go ahead and raise them up. 2 people. That's about the right percentage. That's about the right percentage. Quite often, the person who's left-handed is seen as even less in our culture, but at a time, handicapped. Do you know that they weren't quite what God would want? Because, you always used your right hand for all those gestures of greeting, of eating, of doing your work. And your left hand was there for the mundane, common daily tasks that a person needs to do. And so left-handed people were seen as handicapped in many ways. But Ehud, my hero Ehud, he went to a man called Eglon. You know that there was even TSA back. What's TSA? What's TSA stand for? Gosh, what does he have all the answers this morning? Okay, when you go to the airport and they check out, look through your luggage, see what's all there, and you run you through the screening thing and everything. And pardon me now? I wish, okay, wait a second. Okay. Oh. Yeah, okay. Hang in there, Bill. We're with you. We're with you. See, they had TSA back in the time of the judges as well. Now, what was the T for? Transportation. Well, it wasn't that. It was the security in the kingdom. You know, in the palace, they had security. They would always check for weapons. And if a person was right-handed, where would their weapon, their sword be? It would be on their left-hand side. So as they entered to greet King Eglon, always they would check the left side for swords. But if you were left-handed, where would your sword or weapon be? So they were patting down all the left-hand sides and ushering people in, and it was that, by that means, by that handicap, Ehud was able to deliver the children of Israel from Eglon, the oppressor at that time. He was a judge. And then, Othniel, Ehud, and Shamgar, my favorite. No, not my favorite. He's one of my favorites. I love the guy. Back on the farm, they have something called a cattle prod. You know, it's kind of like the current day tasers that people use. Well, they didn't have that back then. They didn't have the tasers or cattle prods. But what they had was a long stick with a pointy thing on it. And it was to get the oxen to go forward. They'd poke them with the stick. Okay, I'm going. You know, it was called an ox goad. And that was what Shamgar, he defeated many of those that had oppressed Israel during that time just by what was in his hand. He was a herdsman, but he had an ox goad. And that's what that's another story. That's not Palm Sunday. But what you may consider your handicap may be the means by which you'll be victorious. And what is your common everyday tool may be the thing that God can use for His will to be victorious with Him. I'm sorry, what day is today? Oh, Palm Sunday. Yeah, it's going to take a while. Oh, I love it. You guys don't have a clock back there anymore, do you? That is great. I seriously, I don't see a clock. I see a light up there, and there's a clock behind or in that light. You guys are so good. I know there's a clock back there. But with the light, I can't see it. Okay, it's so bright. So you guys are here for the duration. Okay? You guys are here for a long time. Anyway, why did Israel need a deliverer? Because of the challenges they faced of entering into the land of Canaan. They also, during the time of the judges, there were many things that they had to worry about. They looked for that deliverer. Oh, they took the lights off. Okay, good, that's great. Oh, I can see the clock. What time am I done at 10 after 11?
3 p.m.
No, you don't want... Thank you. Okay, having to do with the United Kingdom. Remember when it was Saul has killed his thousands, David his 10,000. It was during this time that Israel really, it was a golden age. It was the good times in Israel as David led the nation. But then there came the divided kingdom. It was where Solomon's son, Rehoboam, was kind of the leader of the south, and Jeroboam was the leader of the northern kingdoms and all the struggles. They always were looking for a deliverer. Let me go to. Then there's the Babylonian time when Daniel was pulled into, up into Babylon and all those kind of things. Nebuchadnezzar, the Persian period. Okay, so all these times were when Israel was looking for a deliverer. Familiar with the Maccabean revolt? What else is celebrated during the time of our Christmas? Pardon me? Hanukkah, exactly. And that is a celebration of how God provided during that period in the temple oil that lasted for, I think it was 7 days. And it was during the Maccabean revolt. And it was that the Jews remembered God's goodness to them. But it's always they're looking for that deliverer. So as we come to this period of time, they were looking for this guy. The one who would deliver them. The one on the white horse. But you saw the earlier picture. What did he come on? The colt of a donkey. Just a lowly donkey. Yeah. But they were looking for that victory there. Well, it says, in Jewish tradition, palm branches have been associated with joy, celebration, and victory. Okay, are you guys ready? Are you guys? I love Adam's back there waving his palm. Are you guys ready? Are you ready? Hosanna, Hosanna. There you go. Okay, good job. Okay, that's participation, you guys. Where's your palm, sir? Somebody stole it, huh? No, that's okay. You're good. Anyway, so that was that time of celebration that they'll have. Now, this is where I think you're going to be disappointed in me. What does it say up there? This is not a triumphal entry. Even though all the people were shouting and praising God and they were looking to just usher in their deliverer, they were thinking that this is what this guy's going to be. Oh, this is only in my mind, okay? To me, John Smyser, this is not the triumphal entry. Even to the point of what it's having to do. In the Olympics, they have a race called the marathon. Are you familiar with that? Now, do you know where that comes from? Some of you probably do. That there was a battle at Marathon. It's a place in Greece. And they were expecting news about what was happening in that battle. And so they sent a runner who ran 26.2 miles to deliver the news about the victory that had been won. It was called the marathon he ran, 26.2 miles. Now then, are you familiar? Okay, what's my favorite book for old timers? What's my favorite book, old timers? Shouted with great conviction. Did you hear that? Was it Romans? Yes, it's Romans. Romans. Okay, and in Romans chapter 10, it talks about how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. It's talking about commissioning possible missionaries or pastors, but those who bring the good news, how beautiful are their feet. That comes from the period of the marathon, because some friend of yours walks up to you Are they bringing good news? Not at all. You can tell. You can tell. How about somebody that... Can you tell the difference? And that's what they could observe from a long distance away. You know, those who are bringing good news. Blessed are the feet of those who bring that good news. And with joy and buoyancy. And so that here's the marathon at the Olympics. As they run down this tunnel into the arena, have they completed the race yet? No. And I put together Jesus entering Jerusalem through that east gate of Jerusalem on that day of the triumphal entry, a little bit like this. Well, I'm sorry, like that. I'm looking at the screen back there. You guys should look the other way. It's a really nice screen. You guys, anyway. Okay, so this is not the end of the race. They still have a quarter of a mile to go. They get on the track and they have to run around the lap. Now, this guy, let me see. Yeah, okay, here we go. There we go. This guy is about 50 yards away from the finish line, okay? This was to Paul when he was talking to Timothy, when he said, I have fought the good fight, I've run the race, I have kept the faith. You know, it's at the end. Some of you have just met me through the times I've been able to come and share. Others of you have known me for a while. Am I getting older? Yeah, come on. Yeah, I'm getting older. Do you know why? I stopped fishing. I was told, I'm not old. I'm old because I stopped fishing. That's right. And so the idea, I'm sorry, I love fish. Okay, but the whole idea, Paul was still saying, I'm coming to the end. There's a pastor that has served out in the valley here for quite a while, a gentleman named John MacArthur, and many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with John. And he shared a video with his, he has a conference, and he shared a video that it was nearing the time he would pass, you know, and that's the way life is, folks. Even though I may seem a vibrant youth, I'm not. I'm an old guy. And I kind of feel like Paul at some times. I fought the fight. I've run the race. I've kept the faith. And so that's nearing that finish line time. You know, that thing that'll come. And then there's the finish line. You know, then that's there. That's it. Now, after Jesus, okay, see, I'm jumping through the story. Palm Sunday, welcome him in. What came just after Palm Sunday? What was the next week called? I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear. Passion Week. What happened during Passion Week? I know you don't usually have to answer during sermons, do you? What are some of the events? He cleared the temple. You know, his disappointment in that this is my Father's house. It's a house of prayer, you know, to see that going on. And then there was the cursing of, I love it. Cecil's back there on Google getting all the activities during Passion Week. Cecil, not fair. Okay, but he cursed the fig tree that wasn't bearing fruit. You remember that? You know, then there was the denial, you know, when somebody sold him for 30 pieces of silver. And then there was the time with his disciples, sharing the past. See, and these are all still ahead from the triumphal entry. And at the end, remember this lady? She was really not happy because the gardener, what had happened? He had done something with the body of her Savior. You know, and the issue is, okay, here we go. Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. Do you see it? Where the triumphal entry is? Okay, so I have some time here. Okay, quick moments with you. Oh no, that's not supposed to happen. I'm going to go back. Okay, here. Okay, that's what we want. Tell me about the tabernacle. Are you familiar with the way the tabernacle? The entrance in the tabernacle is over here on the east. And on the east, you enter into the area of the tabernacle, and the first thing you come to is an altar. It's what they did all of the sacrifices on. Okay? You know, the oxes, bulls, pigeons, and all those sacrifices was the first entrance into the tabernacle area. Oh, I should have told you. For me, the Old Testament is a foreshadowing of things to come. Okay? To me. It's kind of like in a movie. Is there a time when you kind of go, oh, you know, somebody says a line or some action, and you know, oh, that's going to be the end of the story. You know, oh, that's the one that did it. Oh, that's, you know, all those foreshadowing of future things. And this whole tabernacle area is a foreshadowing of the Savior, the deliverer. First, there's the altar, the sacrifice that comes. And then next in line was this round, it's called a laver, or it was where they washed their hands to purify themselves. Okay? And then they would cross into the tabernacle itself, where there was the holy place. And in the holy place, there were 3 pieces of furniture, if you remember. You remember there was the table of showbread, and over on the other side was the candlesticks, where for 7 days they had oil supply during Hanukkah. As they saw, the candlesticks were there, and they were lit and tended to by the Levites. And then there was the altar of incense, you know, before the curtain. And in that curtain, behind the curtain, is it's the Holy of Holies. And in it is the Ark of the Covenant. 10 Commandments, Joshua's staff, and a bowl of manna. And so all of this stuff is foreshadowing. When Jesus says, I have not yet come, I have not yet gone to my Father. Let me see, you guys told me earlier, what was the Day of Atonement? Did you say Yom Kippur? See, on Yom Kippur, when they had the tabernacle, the high priest would begin it, and he would sacrifice, he would cleanse himself, and he would enter into the holy place, and he had to prepare himself to present the sacrifice, the blood, on the Ark of the Covenant. And so he would go behind this curtain, you know, the curtain. Remember the curtain? Remember the curtain? It was a thick curtain, and it was, okay. Of all the people you'll ever have come and speak with you, I'm probably the most insecure. And when I ask questions and you guys don't answer, I feel like I've lost them. They don't love me anymore. Okay, so do you remember the curtain? Oh, good job. Thank you. What happened? Okay, just a quickie. What happened when Christ was crucified on the cross to that curtain? It was torn. It was opened up. It was access into the Holy of Holies. Okay, now, in the Holy of Holies is the Ark of the Covenant, and there's angels, the cherubim. They were carved cherubim, they were doing that, right? Right? You guys, you're killing me. Okay, and on the top of the Ark of the Covenant is something called the mercy seat. And there would be the blood of the sacrifice that the high priest brings in and sprinkles on that lid. And that was to atone for the sins of the nation for another year. Okay? All of that is a foreshadowing of when Jesus said, "Don't hold on to me. I've not yet gone to the Father." Because in the symbolism of the tabernacle, Jesus entered into the presence of God, presenting himself as that sacrifice that paid the price for their sin. Okay? There is a triumphal entry. Okay, I'm sorry. I know I'm messing up with all your Sundays and everything. And who's preaching next week?
You are. You're going to finish this message. That was a joke.
Who's preaching next week?
Steve has.
All right, Steve is going to be here. Don't acknowledge that I said anything about this, okay? Because he'll say, what did that guy do? So don't let him know I did. Okay, anyway, it was at this point Jesus entered into the presence of his Father and presented himself as a sacrifice for us. Yeah, I'll go on. There were other rabbits. Okay, when he ascended on high, he led captive a host of captives. That's out of Ephesians chapter 4, verse 8. And it has to do with when he ascended on high. Have any of you been to the Forest Lawn? Not you personally being there, but I mean you've attended there. You've gone. Okay, and at Forest Lawn, there's this huge paintings. Have you seen them? There's one of the crucifixion. I think that painting is longer than this sanctuary. It's huge. And then there is a second painting behind that called the Resurrection. And it shows Jesus going upwards and just a multitude of people following him. See, to me, that's the triumphal entry. When Jesus is ever that. After this I looked, and behold, there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language. Okay, what book is that from? Just a quick. Yeah, I was going to say, it's on the screen if you guys need help. It's open book. The screen there says Revelation, okay? And before the throne and before the Lamb, they were wearing white robes. Okay, come on, here we go. Holding palm branches in their hands. There's going to be the triumphal entry. When in heaven, we're going to be with the Lord. Yes, wave that palm. There you go. Good job. Okay, I forgot where I was. Okay, Palm Sunday lessons. Okay, humility and service. What if when Jesus was up in Capernaum, because that's where he began with his disciples on this journey to Jerusalem, was in Capernaum up by Galilee. What if he decided, no. A lesson is finding humility and ability to serve. That's what we can do. Then also comes the faith in the face of what? Yeah. Things that we face when we ask the Lord, let this pass from me. And he says, no. Okay, not my will, but yours be done. Faith in those kind of times. There are the expectations. How many of you... Oh, gosh. There was a wonderful person on, I'm not even going to use the name, who predicted in 1988, I believe it was, Jesus was going to return. I'm not going to give names, okay? And then he had to recalculate because it didn't happen. And it's 89 now. Oh, no, it's 98, okay? And we don't know when he's coming. The thing is to be ready there for him, with him. Our expectation versus reality. Preparation for what? Folks, it wasn't while I was ministering here, but at another church earlier before Sunland, and I was feeling so sorry for myself, for all the events and things that were going on at Easter. I was just, poor me. I was just down in the mouth. And about that time, kind of a little nudge came to me. What was his week like? Okay. It's just fine. I will keep on keeping. So when you feel discouraged, overwhelmed, think about what his week was like. And then I can almost read those words. The fickleness of human nature. Oh, gosh darn it. Ministry is one of the greatest occupations, opportunities anybody could ever have, except for all the people you have to deal with. No. I'm saying that in light of, do you remember that the Apostle John, he became like the bishop at the church in Ephesus? But because of his work there, he was incarcerated on an island called Patmos. And on Patmos, he received a vision from God. He wrote it down, and it's the book we have, is book of Revelation. And in that, he later was returned to Ephesus at the end of his time in prison. And they said that he would return to his congregation. And he would be brought in on a chair that was carried in. As an old man who had been just beat up by the elements and who had served God, his comment as he would be carried into the sanctuary or the gathering would be, as he turned, love one another. Love one another. Love one another. While in that time, he wrote the epistles of John, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. And in it, and I love it, he speaks about my dear children. I have not spent time on the Isle of Patmos. I have not been beat up or abused. So, as John did, as he looked out across the people, he says, my dear children, speaking of those of the congregation in Ephesus, and I speaking to the congregation here in Sunland, my dear children, may God bless you. May He always give to you all that you have need of. And may He restore your heart when you are down, and may He be the focus continually of all that you do and say.